I call to order this special select board meeting for the Underhill Selectboard. It's Thursday, December 7th, 2023. And I should note for the public record that this is only a special select board meeting because it's rescheduled from our regular one, which in both of the December ones, due to the holiday, are going to be classified as special. So we will not be having a meeting at a regular meeting time next week. It is 6:01 p.m. And is there any adjustments to the agenda?
Nothing for me.
I have one. I think Russ has one. Mine is we received after the packet went out, we received the agreement to provide the local match for the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, the sidewalk scoping study. So I have a contract here, and we've already applied for that and accepted it. It's just signing the contract for our match. So I'd like to just add that if we could.
Okay.
And I have, if possible, I have three things. Two will be fairly quick, and then the first thing I've got is an employee PTO request in January. Second thing I've got is a sale of some town property, which is pretty cut and dry. And then I'd like to have a short discussion on the Beaver Deceiver, if possible.
Okay. We could put all of those, let's see, before the town administrator updates. So is there any interest in a public comment for the opening? I see none online and I see none in the room.
Well, Steve Webster is online. Steve, do you have a public comment, or are you here for the solar farms project, I assume? I'll take that as a yes, so we're all set.
Yes, I'm here for the solar project. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself.
And we are going there right now. And Michael Ullman is here. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Steve, because we can be enlightened, so to speak.
Boy, I don't know. I'll throw up my hands right now if that's my job. Thanks for taking a few minutes to, I'll try to be quite brief because I know you guys are pretty busy. My name is Michael Ullman. I chair the Energy Committee. And we wanted to get, just before you guys, to sort of give a heads up more than anything else. We are attempting to embark on a program of trying to enhance solar energy in Underhill. And since almost all land and most activity in Underhill is going to be private landowners, we are putting together a program to try to address that. So Steve mostly has pulled together this program. I've made some modest contributions to it, and the Energy Committee has kind of decided that this is a course we would like to follow. I think I'd like to start kind of, I guess Brad included in your packet, gives our brief write-up associated with this. So hopefully you've all had a chance to at least glance over it. I'd just like to kind of start at the end of it and point out that all of the solar activity and enhancing solar activity is a fundamental part of our existing town plan. We've adopted it. We said we want to do it. We've specifically identified the need to do it, specifically identified the need to work with private landowners and provide them information, that sort of thing. So, however, you guys are the select board, and we're going to be going out talking to people, or we want to go out and be talking to people. Hopefully, we don't have anything we need to be requesting from you, at least at this point, but we just want you to be aware of the fact that we're, kind of trying to do this. So we will be wanting to talk to private landowners, which means we want to access our land records to find out exactly who they are, areas where it looks promising for solar. We have a solar subgroup of the Energy Committee that does address these things. We have 4 of our 7 people who are interested, well, 4 of our 6 people now. I think that Lori has not quite made it onto the committee yet, but 4 of our allotted 7 people are on that group and interested in pursuing it, so we have to announce those meetings, which we do. Our basic idea is really pretty simple. Underhill has open land that is currently not being used, that sort of thing. There is the opportunity to potentially locate solar on it. Heretofore, we've been pretty limited in what we could do with solar because I don't know if you knew it. I did not know it until, I won't say recently, but until I got into this a bit. And that is that with ordinary power distribution, the maximum solar you can locate on that circuit is 150 kW, which is what we did in fact locate on the gravel pit, the old gravel pit site. However, Green Mountain Power, in its wisdom, is bringing 3-phase power up River Road, which would make anything in that corridor potentially open to a larger installation, which is very, very attractive. That doesn't mean that would be the only place we would be looking, but that obviously becomes much more prime for what's going on. So we would anticipate identifying landowners in that area, contacting them, most likely through letters and that sort of thing. This is not intended to be intrusive at all, but sort of get in touch with them and say, did you know you could be making thousands of dollars by locating solar on your land and operating it as a sort of a semi-utility. We would anticipate working with private companies to actually do the construction and distribution, that sort of thing. So we would work with them. Steve has identified a number of potential vendors associated with this, but we have not approached them quite yet. We're just starting. Then they would be involved with actually pulling together the distribution system. If they request our assistance in looking for subscribers or interested people in the town, we would anticipate providing that assistance. But basically, they would be ultimately responsible for handling this. We would anticipate some benefits to the town, much like the one that we have now. Some, not so much the payments, but certainly in terms of property taxes, that sort of thing would be affected by development of solar. We do think it's a really good match. Reduces electricity for the landowners, provides direct payments for the landowners, potential for zero carbon electricity available to more residents in Underhill. We are also looking at enhancing its ability to work with our more natural environment. I don't know whether you've run into agrivoltaics before, in which agriculture and PV, solar PV, are mixed and can mutually be mutually supportive. So we would be exploring that with potential landowners. So again, I don't think we need anything from you guys. I would certainly be open to any questions or comments. Any thoughts that the select board has would be very welcome, obviously. And we would basically anticipate getting this underway early in the new year.
The one thing that I would add, if I could, is just that we kind of envisioned the Energy Committee is acting as a liaison between the landowners and the developers, and would not have any commitments in terms of time or money, but would just be there as a resource to help the two parties communicate with each other.
One question I have is thanks for coming and putting this together and being so articulate about it. But anyway, my question is, I would assume that you are going to, before contacting landowners, send out some kind of a public announcement saying that, this is an idea and you may be contacted, by the Energy Committee. So you're not doing it, kind of blindly. It would save some explanation on your part, certainly, and it would be more transparent in a way.
That had not yet come up. Thanks for bringing it up, and it sounds like a tremendous idea to me. We would certainly, I would obviously go back to the group and the committee, but I can't imagine that we wouldn't be interested in following that.
Yeah, that only makes sense.
You could also have something at town meeting if you'd like, if you had a panel.
Yeah, we've been thinking about how we might handle some town meeting stuff. We've sort of done a little bit in the past.
Yeah.
I piggybacked onto my wife's green burial efforts before, but we may come out all
You may
on
need
our
your
own.
own table for this
We
one.
need our own table for this one, right?
Now, I understand that solar, if a landowner wants to do it, there's not much or any permitting that needs to happen.
That's under 15 kW.
Yeah, that's
So
small.
that's, if you have a certificate of public
Right.
good, 15, under 15, once you hit the 15 kW, Patty would know, but once you hit the 15 kW, you're in a different
And
realm.
even below 15 kW, you still have to have a certificate of public good.
Right.
Basically it's a default if you're putting panels on your rooftop or on your own land for your own personal use, but you still have to have a certificate of public good.
So if they have that, if they have a certificate of public good and say they want to put up a structure to hold those panels, they're exempt from getting a permit.
So anybody that puts solar on their roof, or he has to get a certificate?
Well, if you're gonna feed back into the grid,
Oh,
You're
right?
gonna apply for net metering,
oh,
You get a
okay.
certificate
So
of
if you're
public
just
good.
doing it for your own purpose.
but you still have to have a certificate of public good. If you generate electricity, even for your own household, and you're connecting it to the grid in any way, shape, or form, it has to have a.
If you're storing it all on batteries and you're off the grid, that's a different program.
Well,
Exactly.
I mean, I have solar on my roof, and I can't remember unless some comment.
The utility, it's basically if you're a small, 15 kW and less, it's basically an automatic. But you still really technically are getting a certificate of public good. You don't actually apply for it, but the utility is responsible for making sure that the Public
Okay.
Utility Commission is aware, the PUC in Montpelier. There's a whole regulatory paradigm that
This
goes
is,
with it.
GMP did that
Oh,
for
yeah.
me.
But
They do it.
once you break that 15 kW threshold, now we're
a different
into
animal.
planning commission hearings.
Yeah.
for all
So
sorts of things.
in my, obviously I like solar, I have it. It is pretty inobtrusive up on my roof, but it's there and it does me good. We would not want to kind of cover open areas along River Road and along Pleasant Valley Road where there's scenic, byway kind of thing, or is that on the table too?
Scenic considerations obviously would be part of the whole thing, especially because we'll be going, every one of these we would anticipate being larger than, by far, than 15 kW, 150 kW.
You're
would kind of
looking
be-
for big ones.
Well, bigger. We're not looking for these solar fields that kind of, coat everything and, turn the area into, but the scenic, we all live here because of where it is and what it is and how it is. So I think that all of us are sensitive to that. Now, that said, I don't perhaps find solar as unpleasant as some people may, because I see the contribution that it's making. So that's part of my aesthetic associated with it. So, but and one of the things we mentioned in here was vegetative screening, linking it up with the agriculture. So we would be none of us are interested in turning our community into something that's really not pleasant. That's just not where we are. And obviously we'd be coming back and, this is just the beginning of a process of talking to people and finding out if we can generate or find, even better, discover any existing interest. And then we would begin working on how to actually implement that and make it work.
And Michael and Steve, just so you know my background, I came from Washington Electric Co-op and very much understand.
Didn't crawl under the table here.
Utility paradigm. We were 100% renewable utility, completely support renewables. At the same time, just as Dan has articulately said, it's that aesthetics aspect of making sure we want renewables, we want that to fit in our town view sheds in an appropriate way. And the gravel pit aspect, if there's any sort of previously disturbed land, those are great spots to put it. And the Public Utility Commission process actually gives financial incentives to do it in those disturbed locations versus greenfields. So you get more money from the utility by doing it in a disturbed area. If it's a green space, you get less money. They actually penalize you for it.
Now, maybe you can answer my question. Let me ask questions as long as I'm here. No, because one of the things that we've identified is that the process actually seems to be for preferred sites.
Yes.
And it's my understanding that the town can designate, I mean, and they lay out, these sites will automatically be preferred sites, which are the disturbed gravel pits
Right.
and landfills and rooftops and
Yeah.
parking lot, that kind of thing. However, in my inquiries, it suggested that we could designate other preferred sites in town if we go through a formal designation process. And that, so that those sites could enjoy greater benefits. So that might be one of the pieces of the puzzle that we would be looking at as part of this.
I don't remember that aspect of the rule, but I've been out of it for a few years now, so.
Yeah, well, that was the thing, but again, that was when we looked at it, like the preferred sites is the thing, and they identified certain sites that are automatically preferred sites, but they did not preclude the designation of other preferred sites if the.
If you could convince them it's a preferred site.
Right, and, we got these various reasons,
Sure.
X, Y, Z, and, we've looked at the scenic, we've
Criteria.
looked at the, the actual land use, we've looked at the availability of three-phase power, so on and so forth, all goes into making, might go into making a preferred site. We haven't actually tried to do it yet, but when I inquired with the regional planning energy people at the time, they indicated that other sites could be defined as preferred. Now, maybe when we actually go to do it, things will not look the same way they looked the last time we looked, but that was a suggestion. We could pursue that.
One other question that I had was, there was a funding request during the ARPA days for the ARPA funds
Yes.
for 30,000. I think it was 30,000
45,
Okay,
40 something thousand.
in that range. Is this project gonna wrap into that?
That
Or
is
that
not.
separate?
We are pursuing that project separately.
Okay.
The select board had requested more information about siting, about, how to make all of the things work. In the process, we've discovered other opportunities, other activities in town. I would anticipate that we will be coming as part of a dovetailed request, but that is definitely not
Okay.
off the table. We are pursuing it, and we think we have some interesting ideas, but I don't want to sort of go into it quite yet because it's all very not well formed at this time. So
Or getting there. We've been working together with the rec committee, and there'll be something probably forthcoming, hopefully.
yeah, and we would anticipate participating in that, but that definitely is
It's
still part of
separate, okay.
it. Yeah, it's a separate person idea.
So the funding of this is all private? It's all
The funding would be part
voluntary
of,
individuals that,
we would anticipate the organizations, the providers. I mean, that's basically what happened with Green Mountain Solar up on the gravel pit site. They built it and they, provide us with some benefits for it, and then they sell the rest of the power, and that's what they get out of it. That's what we're basically looking at. There may be other models that are involved when we start talking with individual combinations of landowners, vendors, and sites. Those things may come together in a different way. We don't know yet, so we don't want to don't want to be sort of.
The basic model that we are starting with is the idea that the landowner makes the land available, the developer from soup to nuts develops the site and finds people to buy the power, and the landowner just every year receives a check.
You're just trying to educate the public.
Yes.
And then try to put the two together, or just enlighten them to say, this is a possibility for your land, and we as the Energy Committee feel this could be a good spot, and here's the people to contact, right?
And no, we would anticipate doing some of the legwork associated with that as well.
So they wouldn't have.
They wouldn't be doing all the working things out and so on and so forth. So we would try to develop some relationships with vendors and be in a position to work with them and make that even that much easier for
At this point, we've identified 3 developers who offer a range of sizes and options. So we would, try to tailor any proposal to the particular site. So if it's a big system, it'd be one vendor. If it's a smaller system, it'd be a different developer.
And then eventually, though, the relationship would probably almost kind of cease,
Right.
Besides doing what you could to support or help.
Oh, yeah, we'd obviously, if somebody said, help, somebody,
Right.
we would attempt to sort of, but we would anticipate sort of being the facilitator and then give a turnkey situation where they would then be, have their own system, and just cashing checks and things like that.
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure out how to get that job
I
myself.
like the cash.
Yeah, cashing checks part of it.
If, and I don't want to make this more complicated, but in the event that you could talk to some of your vendors about battery storage partnered with the solar, you may be able to get a good situation going with Green Mountain Power, because GMP has several investments in battery storage with a 3-phase line coming down River Road. That could be another way to sweeten the deal.
Yes.
Seems
I
to
like
be
that.
the future, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah,
It does, yeah. I've
Takes
personally
the
been
intermittent
chasing.
out of
Yeah.
solar.
right.
Oh, I've personally been chasing Form Energy. I don't know if you've been familiar with them. They do these iron air batteries that are a lot cheaper and start at 100-hour storage duration, that sort of thing. And I also look into sort of in my spare time microgrids. I'm wondering if we can get a microgrid applicability, especially with the distributed generation and storage. Seems like it. I'm wondering if there's any way to work Underhill into that kind of a situation where we've got some, we get renewables would be primarily solar, battery storage, and then have it.
Is it Rochester that's doing the town of Rochester?
Panton has it, right? But they have a big central PV, a utility scale PV and central utility scale battery storage system there. So, and I think that's GMP that's doing it. That's they're kind of like giving it a shot, but it's very centralized. So as opposed to distributed, which I think we would fare better with a distributed kind of arrangement here. That it doesn't lend itself to a centralized kind of situation, I don't believe. But if anybody wants to convince me otherwise, I'm
Centralized to decentralized, though.
yeah. Well, we would go decentralized, and the Panton situation is highly centralized. They got that big utility scale solar, big utility scale battery sitting there all in one place, and then it goes from there. But then that's islandable, if that's actually a word, which is kind of what makes it into a microgrid. And
So during, for example, power outages, we were just talking about Washington Electric Co-op is coming off a 3 to 5 day power outage.
right,
If Panton was in their service territory, Panton can open up lines, island the system within their little town, and have electricity for certain buildings.
right.
So like if this was an emergency shelter.
So they've decentralized themselves,
It's
right? From the
It's
grid.
centralized in the sense that Panton becomes a hub of electricity. And you can disconnect from the grid. You basically open up all the
Right.
circuits
So it goes the other way.
and you maintain electricity just in your town or whoever's connected. So if you have the school, the town office, the garage, you can actually have electricity humming within a very small area.
So it is a
Battery
mini
storage.
grid. I see your.
Yeah,
It's exactly,
mini grid.
it's an
Right,
island.
exactly. Yeah, so it could
Create
be-
an island.
But it is decentralization in a way, don't you agree?
Well, the microgrid itself is decentralized from the larger
Yeah.
system, but
Right.
within the microgrid,
You're central.
the
Yes.
generation and storage is centralized as opposed to distributed
Right.
to users.
Exactly.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of nifty stuff.
It is. It is very cool. Get me back into the electric world.
Yeah, right. Would you like to join the Energy Committee? We have it.
I think I'll stick to the select board.
Yeah, I think you got your hands full.
Well, good.
It's excellent
Move
work.
on?
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks so much.
Thank
I
you
hear
very
that there's an interesting presentation in the Planning Commission on hydrology, and Sandy has suggested I should be there, so I'm going to go to it.
Excellent.
Stacy Pomeroy is presenting something, I
Yeah,
think, so it'd
I'd
be
like
good
to-
to see. Yeah.
I've been very interested in that side of our resilience as well. But that's
Very
just.
Thank you
that's
very
kind of
much
more
for
of a-
all your work.
coming,
Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for.
Michael and Steve.
Yes, thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Bye, Steve. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So the next item on the agenda is the is the fire department. And typically, Sherry and I talked about this, typically she would just put it on the warning, like the 5 years is up, she would just stick it on the warning. But I think it's kind of a good habit, or good to have, maybe for someone looking back, to say, okay, because the warning is really yours, right? So the town meeting warning is the select board's. So, and obviously it behooves us to, we're going to pay taxes one way or the other. So the Underhill Jericho Fire Department is tax exempt, but it's only for a period of 5 years. State statute said we can do it for a period of 10 years, but we've opted, it's been traditional that it's been every 5 years. So the 5 years is up. It's time for them to go back on the warning. And this is just, I thought, a procedure that would be good. The chief writes a letter requesting to be placed on the warning. So
What would be the ramifications if it wasn't considered?
they would put it in their budget and we'd pay for it anyway.
So it would just increase costs.
It would, yeah, it would be a line item on their budget expense, and it would be shared between us and.
It would be an in and out kind of a thing.
Right.
So Jericho, they have a station in Jericho and they're tax exempt over there. And this is very typical. You're not going to find a fire department in the state of Vermont that's not tax exempt.
Should we do the 10 years instead of 5?
Well, I don't think we should rock the boat. I think we should keep out with the 5, because there is some statute in there about you can only increase it by 5. I don't know. I think we should stick with the 5. Keeps us on our toes. But anyway, that's that. And so Matt was kind enough to and I just added the article from 2019 in the packet.
So that'll be one of the items on the warning.
One of the
Yes.
many this year. So 6,
A lot of articles.
7. So now it's.
We don't have to approve that, or we're waiting for the
I would just say,
warning?
we'll wait for the warning to
Okay.
approve, but it's just a housekeeping thing or a good paper.
For what it's worth, I get that it's statute, but I like that you brought it to their attention, because the select board's changing.
Right.
And you
First
didn't
time
know,
I've-
and you didn't know, and no one's gonna remember every 5 years this comes
Right.
up. So better reminding them, so
Exactly.
when it appears on the ballot, they're not like, why are we doing it?
Right.
So I appreciate that you did that,
Sure.
for what it's worth.
Thanks.
Good job, Brad.
I think more information
Oh, of course.
is better.
Of course.
Well,
You
and-
you guys could be like, whatever.
Always.
Actually, I signed this last warning.
Right, you did. And, and by the way.
And you're gonna say the next one.
And by the way, when you're looking back, to search the minutes, which is much easier now with our website,
You just put it in.
you just put it in and say, okay, I don't know, this gives you a better idea of what, now at least it's recorded somewhere and not just looking back at the
Yeah.
town reports.
Mhm.
And Matt didn't even know. I had to remind him, so. good thing.
Exactly. So
That's why it's a good
something that we
reminder.
Exactly. It's like, it's
Yeah.
not top of my list of,
Things to remember.
Are we on to
I'm
ARPA?
glad
Yes.
I'm
Okay,
glad you
speaking of,
remembered.
wanting to provide information that isn't really necessary or required, but I like to make sure that everybody's kind of on top of things. I sent you the
I
ARPA
appreciate
balance
this.
sheet. And just as our housekeeping reminder, we have to have all the dollars committed by 12/31/24 and spent by 12/31/2026. So basically, we're ending year 3. 2023 is coming to a close.
Mhm.
I wanted you all and our residents to know where we're at as far as dollars that have been committed and dollars that have been spent. So you can see year 3 total, that's where we're at so far. And the balance after all of the funding that we've done so far of what we have left was the 422,445.
Mhm.
Now, we've also committed funds that we haven't spent yet, which will go in my documents that I have to send to the portal. And that's the town digitization, because Sherry hasn't gotten the bill yet. The Energy Committee, the generators, which we have paid a deposit on, but we haven't got the generators yet. The town hall upgrades here in the great room. The rec committee's rebound and play structure. And then those are the total of funds that you guys have committed, but we haven't spent yet.
Sidewalk.
After that is this balance of 155, 445, 31. In that is the sidewalk and the solar project.
Okay.
And maybe a few bucks, other bucks. But because we don't have a specific, we're gonna do the sidewalk from here to here, and here's our estimate, and here it is, it hasn't been committed yet. So I'm not putting it in the portal yet until you guys say to me, and I hear you guys say, we're committing it. Do you know what I'm saying? So the way that we did the ARPA when the committee presented it and you accepted it was they put whatever was left into that sidewalk thing. But as soon as we commit it and it goes in the portal and it's part of the Treasury's documentation, then we have to do that. So there's no rush. My thinking is, let's figure out exactly what we're gonna do with the sidewalk piece. You know, are we gonna be able to do the piece that we've been talking about from the school down
Well,
You're
from the pond.
from the pond
Yes.
to here? And if we're gonna do that, then that's when we'll say, you know, once we kind of know what that costs, then we could say that. And then that's an
Right.
actual amount that is committed that we know we can spend.
And we have until
The end of 2024 calendar
To
year,
commit it.
next year,
to have a project plan and
to commit it.
say, here's the
Yeah.
project, we're gonna gobble up so many
Yeah,
dollars.
yeah.
Yes, that's doable.
And
It
for the
is.
solar thing, remember we had the original plan here. The select board said no. There's some talk about some other location, perhaps at Moore Park.
Yep, there's gonna be another proposal that'll be a mix, a group proposal, so I think it's a good one.
Yeah, so then that's gonna come to you. So that's what that 155,000 over there in the lower right-hand corner is. That hasn't really been committed. I mean, the select board has stated their intention and what you wanna spend it on.
It's open, but there's placeholders
Yes.
for a good chunk of this. if not
And
all.
if something happens and you guys decide to commit it somewhere else, it's kind of there in the back pocket. If something happens and you know, I don't know, it's there. I was asked to mention to you, although that there are some other, because people have called me, some of the projects that we funded went over and people have called me and said, oh, well, do you think the select board would consider giving us more money to fund our projects? I have backburnered those because in my mind, you guys have reviewed all this and you have said, you know, we're still committed to the solar project and we're committed to the sidewalk. So I feel like
We don't want to eat up.
we don't want to eat up more money and have it, you know, spend it willy-nilly and then be like, wait a minute, now we don't have the money for the sidewalk project. And once again, that doesn't get done.
Right, and the sidewalk was like the most
Yes.
Important thing.
wanted.
So the
project
fact that
of
it's
all
happening
of them.
last is only because we just haven't, it's a big project.
It's a big thing.
So I just wanted to update you guys on where we're at,
Okay.
and I will continue to do that.
But that's, you know, I don't know, I don't need to know what those projects are that are on overrun. And I don't want to right now.
Yes.
But if it is a town committee, you know, what it does is, if it is pursued, then it has budget implications. Because then it would go as a request in their budget. So,
And you haven't received any,
right. And
unless I'm presenting them in version 2 tonight, which I'm not. You already have version 2.
okay,
So,
So
Yeah.
6:30.
but anyway, we don't need to spend,
nope, that was just quick update.
thank you.
Thank you for that very much.
So I'm just gonna do one quick appropriation before Jennifer gets into the version 2 of the budget. And we received a letter from the Howard Center. And we all know the Howard Center Mental Health. Dan must even work there one time. But they're asking for $11.50 for fiscal year 25. That's an increase of $250. Last year was $900. So according to our appropriation policy, they're under the threshold and would just be added to the budget for the voters to approve. That's it.
Good.
Okay, we are on version 2, people. Yay, this is exciting. The reason you didn't have this piece of paper that I'm handing you now is because I did it today. Just because I think it's helpful to, rather than rehash everything, of course, at any time, anyone can bring up anything they want to rehash or discuss. But I'm going to highlight the things that changed from version 1 to version 2. There are things that either someone asked someone to go back and do more research on, or an item was, asked to, relook at something. So I'm going to just run down those. What you're also going to notice, I think weren't you at budget last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I always change the color from one version to the next. It starts to get really colorful by the more versions that we have. But if you have any requests for colors, let me know. Version 2 is the pale green. So you can see anything that changed from version 1 to version 2, will be in pale green. I am going to, going down my list, you can see the things that have changed are going to coincide with my list. So page 1, page 2, 3. Well, going down to line 130, which is page 4, it's the schoolhouse. Not a big deal. Roger Fry sent me an updated request and reduced the amount of money that they were going to have in repairs and maintenance by $150. Non-event, but it's a change, so I want to make sure I let you know. On the next page, line 146, we added, this is a placeholder at this point, but we added the money, $10,000 on top of, or whatever, for the speed signs that we discussed last time.
Mhm.
So you can see that's added on there.
I'd just like to ask a quick question. We can stick with, I did a little research on All Traffic Solutions, and it doesn't seem like they, how Jeff Village has the one that says too fast,
Yeah.
like blinks at you.
Never seen that.
Yeah.
I'm never going to.
I think it's annoying. You're going 26 and.
I know, so should we,
Yeah,
I don't think- All Traffic Solutions seems to have a pretty good reputation, and they seem to be good machines so far. I don't know if you want to research other companies that do the too fast thing, or just stick with the blinking strobe.
My thought would be to keep everything the same.
Okay.
They're
Consistent.
uniform around town.
Yeah, and then if there repairs or anything, it's all the same too.
Exactly,
That's just
true.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll stick with All Traffic.
And the one coming down the hill from Mountain Road
Casey's Hill.
after Casey's Hill toward the school is so effective.
Yeah, it is. I
It
follow
just-
people and they're on the brakes.
Every
It
day.
wakes you up and it's like, oh my God, I'm doing 36.
And
It's
then
shouting
you
at
go
me.
slow past the school.
It's exactly
It does
it.
exactly what it's intended
It's
to do.
super well placed. It's perfect.
Yeah, nice
Because by
job.
the time you get
Nice
to the
job, guys.
school, you're doing 30.
Yeah.
And the people coming out of Stevensville.
Gives you time to slow down before you get.
It's true, but people coming out of Stevensville are not going to find these cars zipping by. They can, because that's a blind
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
corner looking to the right. One of the things that I would like to ask that if we can, obviously not rate now because we don't have the data, but if we can ask the sheriff, how many traffic tickets did he get before signs?
Right.
And then how many traffic
After. I'm
tickets?
sure he's keeping
after.
track.
We have records of that too.
But we'll find out after like a year or so
Sure,
of those signs up. I'd
Yeah.
like to know how,
effective.
because
I'm gonna guess he's gonna pull over less at his little spot here.
exactly. I think
Yeah, fewer people
Yeah.
here versus
like wherever they have the
15
signs.
minutes.
before not
I'd
having.
love to find that data or see that data to see.
Yeah.
You could probably give us a gut feeling right now, but yeah, after
Oh,
you
yeah.
would be a true
Like
test.
after, give it a whole year.
Doesn't wave to me anymore. Maybe that's a sign.
Yeah, they're not making it, they're not making, he doesn't care, he gets paid. Then move down to, line 149, which is Essex Rescue. We received, their numbers in there. It's about a 6.4% increase. I still, line 150, have not heard from the fire department, so I put a number in there because one of the things I wanted to be able to tell you tonight is based on where we're at, what is the tax rate looking like for municipal tax rate? And I can't do that if I don't have somewhat of a real number.
Exactly.
So I put 6%. I don't know what the fire department's gonna come in at, but
Are they working on it? Do we have an idea?
Yeah, so I was gonna talk about that at schedule time. Yes.
so we should hear from them soon.
Okay.
Answer to your question, but for now I put that in. Hopefully we'll get that number soon. Kusi actually came down because they got something happened. I don't know what, but we got their letter and they reduced it by quite a bit. So not going to complain there. Then the next one is on the next page, the mapping line.
Before we go there, the recreation department, is this their budget lines 159 through 164?
Yes, and Anton was supposed to get back with me after their meeting last Thursday night, and I haven't heard from him.
Okay.
So I will put an inquiry out to him tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And just say, do you have more? But they,
Okay.
so that's their regular budget. And then they also have the ARPA funds will be used to do the rebound thing and that's separate from the regular budget.
Okay.
They haven't actually done those things, the playground structure and the rebound.
And those kinds of things, maybe because it was delayed, they got an estimate, might go up.
They might,
So,
in which case that would be that will go on the budget.
right.
Or that might be an example of something that you want to make some kind of ARPA adjustments.
It's a little
That's up
different
to you.
from an outside source. We're
Yeah.
talking a town.
Yeah.
Right. But, I want to take some ownership in the fact that it was delayed.
Mhm. That's why we didn't get it. They didn't get it done last year.
Yeah.
They were waiting.
Otherwise, they would have gotten done right away.
Absolutely.
And so we can get their back on that.
The next item is line 171 mapping. We removed, 17,000 last year. That was because that was year 2 of the mapping project. But we had thought we were going to need a figure in there for the upgraded imagery, and that's not going to be, it's when they fly over and do the imagery, and they told Brad they're not doing it fiscal year 25, so we won't have that cost.
We don't think so.
So,
Yeah, doesn't look like it right now.
so that's why that number is green. The next one is the library. We got their letter, their budget, and that is a 7.5% increase.
And we have no say
We
on
don't,
that because they're their own municipality and it just.
Is
so
what it
that's what it
is.
came out to be.
And and this every year we have this discussion, if anyone on our board or residents of Underhill want to have a say in the library budget, the time to have that say is to go to the library's budget meetings when they're discussing their budget and
Right.
not after their board has already approved it. Once that happens, now it's our bill.
Right.
And do you know when their budget cycle is? When they're making that vote?
They just did it like within the last few weeks.
They send announcements out.
And they send announcements and they send newsletters and they put it in Front Porch
So they're
Forum.
advertising.
They
Yeah,
are.
everybody wants.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I see them.
And then the next one is similar story, is the Jericho Underhill Park, Mills Riverside Park, same deal as the library.
Yeah.
They came in at a 3% increase for only a $700 increase. And I also, just as an aside about the park, I was there last night for their meeting, and they wanted to say thank you. They've been getting lots of really excellent feedback on the parking lot, and it came out great, and it did go over budget, but they're really super excited about it, and it's being used and utilized. So
Yeah.
they say thank you.
It looks good, and they made a good choice in vendor.
Moving right along, next page, Howard Mental Health. Well, Brad just told you that they had a $250 increase, so there you can see it right there on line 202. And that is it for the changes in the general fund. Now we'll move into the highway fund. And Russ is here to talk to you briefly or as much as you want about the hauling line. One of the things that we discussed, and then I'll let him talk, is is that we wanted to kind of weigh the pros and cons of hauling all of our own sand, using all of our employees, using our trucks, wear and tear, fuel, etc., versus paying a hauling company contract to go in their trucks, pick up the sand and bring it back to our pit. So Russ spent some time and came, and you'll see attached
Yeah, I like,
a document that explains that.
this is a forever debate that we, kind of estimate, and if we can get it down to the detail, that helps.
So I don't know if you need explanation of that, but basically this is sticking at least a whole foot in the water.
Yeah, my numbers that I put together, basically trying to ease into this a little bit and not being so large would be possibly to get half of our sand hauled. Because it does give us an opportunity to do some of this when we're not able to do other work. So it is a good fill in when we're not able to do some other work. But it does take a fair amount of time to haul our sand in. So, we do an average of 325 loads. That takes 13 and a half weeks. And that would be one truck hauling if we did it just by one truck. But
How many days a week?
that's 4 days a week. If we put it on 4 days a week.
One load a day.
No, they do
No.
an average of 6 loads a day,
Wow.
depending on traffic and whatnot. Sometimes it's 5. Very, very rarely is
So
it 7.
that's 300, and change.
That's a lot of trips back and
Miles.
forth from Johnson.
And the road is getting
Oh,
pretty
oh
rough.
Oh
up
my
to Johnson.
gosh, it's bad.
So when you look at the wear and tear, maybe that shouldn't be 25 cents a mile. That would be
Yeah, no,
50.
Yeah, you might have to have your teeth replaced soon.
And I don't know what the schedule is of Route 15 from the roundabout in Jeff to Johnson, which we thought was going to be this last summer. But if that does start being constructed, redoing that stretch of road, that will put a limit on, that'll lower our amount of trips back and forth.
We
as
sit in
well.
I
traffic.
can ask Ernie, no, let's see what he said.
It's got to be on the schedule.
I don't think it is for this summer. I think it's gonna be next, but you'll see.
Oh, it's horrible.
But, figuring the amount of fuel that we use, the wear and tear, the list is so long that, we can talk about it, but it's, one of the main things is our trucks are so heavy. Anyways, our trucks are built to plow snow, so they are heavier than our tandem trucks weigh about 5,000 pounds more empty than a triaxle construction dump truck. So they can technically haul more legally than we can, even though we are weight exempt. We're pulling out a native's pit weighing anywhere from 72 to 78,000 pounds, which our trucks are 66,000 pound. Even though we're exempt from overweight, if something should happen, I think a jury could have fun with it. Maybe not. I don't know, but we do have some close calls with, 104-15 intersection, cars pulling out in front of us. We've had a couple instances there that, oh boy, but, we haven't had any accidents, but it does give us an opportunity to be in that situation.
That's true. Liability, you can't estimate
No,
that
you
in
can't.
terms of.
And you guys are now going all the way around 15 too. You don't do Pleasant Valley.
Shorter 15 anyway.
No, it's longer. It takes about 10 minutes longer to go
Really?
15. Yep.
Yeah.
But Russ,
Oh,
here,
because where you are.
in your memo, you're saying for staff if we were to continue to haul, it's $5.66 per ton of sand. And if we hire this out, it would be $9.50. So it's a more expensive proposition to hire it out.
Yes.
So it's a budget impact for sure.
Yes.
You can see in our budget there.
Well, it is,
But
go ahead, I'm sorry.
what you don't have in here is if staff are doing other work projects, what the offset is.
Right.
So I like the concept of, our road crew doing other work and, getting projects done during the summertime where, it's tree cutting and ditch digging and cleaning out. That's not reflected in here, and I think that's a really important piece of that.
Right.
Where you're putting.
I think I was reading this wrong. So you're saying 7,000, to haul 7,000 tons for us
It's 566.
is 566 per ton, and you're saying an outside vendor, you're estimating it's gonna be 950.
Right.
Based on,
I talked to a outside vendor that does haul sand for other municipalities, which that's an estimate, what it cost, what they charge to, for those towns to haul their sand. So,
same distance.
well, one is Essex, a little bit further, but not terribly further by the time you go 15, then up River Road to the garage, so just to the town. So it's pretty close. It's coming out of Johnson as well. And just because it does take a lot of time, and it's one of those very important things to get done. It's almost like that should be the first thing that gets done. I think we should prepare more for winter, get ready for winter before the projects get started sometimes, because we don't want to get down to, biting our fingernails of getting it done prior to, start plowing snow and so on. But it goes right down to, adding so many miles onto our trucks, that what's that do to our value of our trucks when it comes time to get rid of them, when they've got well over 100,000 miles on them versus, an average town truck in 7-8 years should only have 60 to 70,000 miles at the most. Once they get over the 100,000 mile mark, their value tends to go down more. I got my truck that's 2 years old. It's already got 37,000 miles on it. So,
How much has your truck hauled sand?
for 2 years.
So it's 20,000 miles. If one truck hauled all the sand, it'd be 20,000 miles on that truck. But you're all hauling sand, so you're probably putting like 5,000 miles on each truck additional.
Well, usually it's one truck is hauling the majority of it.
Okay.
Like say this summer, Ken hauled a lot of sand when Dwayne, Scott, and I were either doing culverts or ditching or so on, and Ken came in and did a lot of the hauling. So he did the majority of the hauling. So it does put a lot of miles onto that particular truck. But we may take a few days. Okay, no, we're all going to haul sand for the next couple of days just to give it a boost. But we get more and more work put onto our plate, with the MRGP programs, the, getting ready for paving, there's a lot of work to do in the summer that, and the summer's only so long. So trying to get it so we can maybe at least get half of it hauled to limit our on the road time.
I mean, for me, the selling point would be the projects that you're going to get done. And if what we can do is revisit this next year, I'm in support of doing like the 50% proposal is a great idea. Dip a toe in, let's try halfway. But then flesh out next year, what did you get done?
That's a good idea.
So we can look at it just factually and say, was it worth it or not?
Yeah.
Did we get $40,000 worth of value out of other work? We can evaluate it that way, whether we continue to outsource some or we bring it all back in or outsource all of it.
And the vendor I talked to also said it, in the spring of the year, their rates might be less because these haulers that are doing this are also in the paving business. So where in the spring, they can do, they're looking for the work before they start paving. So if they can fill in some of their early springtime work, it's more beneficial versus waiting.
So we might be able to get a lower rate than that.
Possibly.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that in the fiscal year situation when fiscal year doesn't start till July? You're really not supposed to.
Can't do it.
Unless you get ahead of it.
Unless you plan it ahead, for the following year.
You'd have to double the salt sand budget and then you could do that.
Then you could do it May, June. Once the roads are.
It's just the way the fiscal year works, and it's the way of the spending. We can't spend money outside, just like the project on Poker Hill, we couldn't.
What if is it legal, so to speak, to what if it wasn't paid for until July?
Yeah, we played that game before.
Yeah.
I don't think it's, no,
Well, we don't think, or we don't know, or
You're
we
getting,
know.
well,
Didn't the auditors say something about that?
Yes. If the work was done during the fiscal year, they said, then it has to
has
be,
to be posted in that fiscal year.
because this has come up before.
No,
Yeah.
I'm sure it has. I just know others that have, that do it,
Doesn't
whether
mean
it's right or
doesn't
not.
mean they're doing it right.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are towns that don't get audited too, but yes, our auditors have made it really clear that we've had some where it's like right on the line.
Town
So
of
do
Cambridge
we
never
have,
had
can
one.
we find money to do that this year? Or if we can't do 50%, do 25% and then plan ahead with this budget for the following year?
It's possible. We could see where we're at in the
Yeah.
spring,
We have to see where we're at.
with some of the, the outside. Probably wouldn't be able to pay for our sand, but we might be able to pay for the trucking. It's depending on how our contractor lines work out. So there's a possibility.
I think it's a tough one. I think it's something that needs to be planned ahead because it's a big number.
Yeah, and so we should be paying attention to it in this budget
For the following
for
year.
the following year. And beef it up a bit.
Yep, or we look at, I think once we get to the bottom of this budget and we start talking about things, you're not gonna be looking to add $50,000 more to it. Because I think we're also looking at some kind of, large numbers coming in, we're anticipating for school tax. There's some talk about that being somewhere around 18%. So I think we need to really do our best job to really keep our taxes, municipal tax rate, trim this year. So I'm not sure that this would be the right time to put an extra, but we can see where we end up, and you guys can certainly, we can put any number in you want, and I can tell you what it does to the bottom line.
I don't think the savings, you might get a $5,000 discount or something if you started hauling first thing in the spring.
Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
it would be.
It's, some things are just the way it is, and it's, it doesn't, it's
Right.
not the utmost ideal. In the private sector, you'd want to make money or you'd want to stretch your money the best you could, and that's the way you do it, but.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, we put in that line, after Russ and I met, we put in if we were to haul half. And you'll see that added 33,000 to the hauling line.
Okay.
We keep that 10,000 that's in there, and you can see that, in this fiscal year, that's for us to haul sand during mud season.
Gravel or stone.
Gravel, stone, that's what that hauling number is. So, what we're proposing here with the green line on 231 is that, hauling of the sand.
So really, the difference is 13,000. You're adding that, but there is an expense, more fuel. I'm just trying to talk this out a minute, but of course, if you're not hauling sand and you're out doing something else, you're still gonna be
using some
burning fuel.
gas, yeah.
You're still putting miles on your truck.
Yeah.
Well, if we're spending more of our time ditching and things like that, we don't burn
As much
a
fuel.
quarter, we might burn a quarter of the fuel. that we
Okay,
burn,
good point.
because we're idling
Idling,
more,
right.
we're not, long haul distance. It's more short runs, go dump our material and back to the site, things like that, and more idle time. So you don't burn as much fuel.
So the difference is 13,000, but probably it wouldn't work out to that. It would probably be a little more than that it's really costing you because you'd be adding the fuel.
But like
But
that's
not
what jobs
much.
are we getting done,
Right.
with that extra person when we're cutting brush or we're.
Right, to me,
Right.
that's the sales
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
That's where I think the story is fleshed out.
But
Or
as
serving the
long as
community.
that doesn't incur extra costs
Yeah.
to now you're ditching more, you're
You
more
got more culverts, you got
Right,
more
right.
stone.
Right.
You kind of,
As we know,
Yeah.
our projects list is
Yeah.
quite large.
I know.
And we have to get certain jobs done to meet our our
Paving and.
MRPG
or
and the
MR
paving,
right,
yeah.
our grants,
Right,
those have to be done by certain points. So if you can get those jobs done, that's gonna help us on that end. And if, just to get ready doing those big culverts like on Irish Settlement, I mean, those are big jobs.
yeah, I know they are.
And to have that extra hand, it's just,
Gotta cut the pavement, there's a lot to it.
oh yeah.
And when we get to the gas oil line, we can talk about that one also and how this might impact, how this situation impacts that. Two small numbers that we have changes in here are technology and telephone. And as I say it, I'm thinking that if that 780 that we added for the internet for the new,
Just another internet connection or another.
but I'm thinking
router.
that's actually technology, not telephone.
Yeah, it's technology.
So I probably will,
But it comes on your telephone bill, right?
Yeah, but it's internet service, not telephone service, so I guess,
But does our current internet come off
no, that's
technology?
Comcast, right?
no.
Oh, then it's all, yours is all in
it's all
telephone anyway.
telephone
Okay.
anyway. All right.
Then don't worry about it. So, and then the 1100 technology, Russ and I weren't sure about this, but I'll make a call this week about it just to double check. But we were trying to determine what the annual fee is for the new camera system. There's a license, and we looked through the bill, and it looks like we were charged just under $1,100.
1 year license.
Oh, for a 1-year license. So we're assuming that that's going to be an annual renewal,
Gotcha.
but we're not 100% sure. We were hoping to maybe ask Bob that question, but so I put in the $1,100 annual license because that's the best we know. So those are small numbers. And then the next one is the gas, oil, fuel line, which we have at a reduction of last year. And my question is this number
That would go lower if we didn't haul as much sand.
Sand.
right? So you have it at 16,000 gallons, whereas last year we had it at 18,000. So we're talking about a reduction in gas with the 50% hauling.
But-
Again, first time doing this,
but
I don't
you have
know.
a little bit of gas, because you're gonna be running the truck potentially, but not as much as you. would.
Right.
And what's the fuel price has gone down, hasn't it?
No, they fluctuate.
Nah.
Like this last week, it was up 20-something cents what
Yeah.
it was the week before.
You'd
But
be
not
surprised.
like those numbers we were seeing.
No, that's why we have it at
We
$4.
lowered it from what, 450?
It was at
We had it-
$4.50 or $4.75 last year.
We lowered it to 4.
Fiscal year '24, we did it 18,000 gallons at $4.25. Now we're reducing it to 16,000 gallons and average $4. It's a tough one and it's a big number,
Yeah.
but we were really off this year because of the gas prices. so.
Fuel oil or
I got
oil
fuel
per
oil
barrel is way
420.
down.
$69 right now. I just checked it.
My household residential oil costs
Exactly.
is at 420 right now.
But it's so funny, that doesn't equivalent to anything going down. I can't, right there, 69.
It doesn't.
77.
Exactly.
Didn't help.
No, it's just, it's sad. But
So that's where that one is at. Then line 256, the sand line, Russ had more conversations with the vendor and they said that there could be up to a 3% increase, whereas before we just had it flat. So you can see there's a 3% increase for the cost of sand for the year built into this year's budget. Then line 265, traffic control materials, we increased that another 2,800, and that is directly related to signage that we need to purchase, the new signs with the reflective signs. So that's what where that increase is.
Because our painting comes out of that same line, our road, crosswalks and stop bars, things like that. So that takes a huge chunk of our
budget
budget.
much for
It
signs.
doesn't leave much.
Yeah,
for
signs, and then if you change out the signs, and then you end up changing the sign posts. And
Right, we're just trying to upgrade some of the older dilapidated street signs that need to be upgraded to the 911.
So that is all the things that changed from version 1 to version 2. there's a couple of other big things I want to talk about, which I'm going to first go through how this affects the tax rate. And then after that, I'd like to talk about a couple of big things that we need to consider here for the next version, which will be version 3. So if you go to this page, which is the tax rate page, which I gave to all of you.
Is there a packet? Yeah.
Yes. So you can see, if you look at the green line, this is boiling down all the numbers that we just went through, boiling it down and then dividing it by what we estimate the grand list to be. So Mandy gave me that number of, that you see there, the 5480. That's the grand list number we're going off of. This year, fiscal year 24 that we're in right now, our actual came in at 5464518. So she's not projecting much of an increase in our grand list for next year. So but that grand list won't get lodged until long after we approve this budget.
April 1st.
So we're going to go through our process. You guys are going to say, yep, this budget, this is the number we're going with. And then hopefully the residents will approve it. And then after that, we get the final grand list. So things don't all happen as quick.
What it is.
It is. Okay.
And I think that's conservative. Better to be conservative
and
with
Mandy
that number. And
always conservative. So the estimate we had used for this past year, that's why I kept that on there, was a flat 5, and it came in at 5464. So what you'll notice all the way to the right on the green line is a decrease of 3.43%. The reason that that's important is because there are all these items that we've talked about putting on the ballot that if they get approved, will then reconfigure the bottom line. So the little things like the little ballot items, the few appropriations that are changed are insignificant. The significant one is, and I put it in here so you'd have this, is if we put on the ballot and it is approved, taking 100,000 from the supplemental highway income that we normally receive. And if you look go back to your budget on page 1, line 22, you'll see state aid to highways. We budget that we think we're going to get about 110,000. Last year we got 109.
What line is it?
Line 22, first page, intergovernmental revenue.
we count on that as revenue.
We count on it as revenue. It just gets baked into our revenue and reduces the money that we need to ask our taxpayers for. If we pull that out of revenue to go into reserve,
That's 3%.
that eats up your entire 3%. And that brings you to 0.01 increase, 0.01%. So that's what I wanted to draw to your attention. Now we have something else that also would affect this, and that is the ash borer plan for the ash borers. And I gave you a highlighted thing, but I don't have it in front of me.
I printed out everybody copies of
So,
Yeah, this is great.
the floor plans.
so the bottom line, there's one page where he summarizes it. After Johnny went through and did the inventory this summer, they came up with some real numbers in Underhill. And basically, if we are going to take down the trees that they're recommending that we take down, it's somewhere between 50,000 and 75,000 per year for the next 5 years. So we need to think about, do we want to use, do we not want to, I'm throwing these things out there because these are all the things you need to think about. Do we want to wing it and see what it costs and not budget for it? Do we want to budget 50,000? Do you want to take some of that supplemental highway money and instead of putting 100,000 into the reserve for that, do you want to say, let's put 50 a year for the next 5 years into the tree warden reserve, which you have already set up? How do we want to attack this, no pun intended, emerald ash borer?
I think some of these numbers seem to be inflated.
You have a page you're looking at for numbers?
15.
There was one page I highlighted.
15, it's the one, 15, it's 15, tree removal. So really,
We're looking at about, here's the numbers, 300,
trees.
somewhere between, it's the 381,000 and 249 and 381. And if you divide those by 5 years, those are the numbers.
but then what we're using though, as a cost, you know, is we're using a cost range of 85 to 3,500 or more per tree. And that just seems a little high. Russ and I kind of talked about it. I would say, I don't know, how do you feel about it, Russ? I mean,
Well, knowing what some of our vendors have talked about, which they like to give, like the last vendor that we used, Michael's Tree Service, he likes to come in and get paid for the day. So he charges us $1,800 a day, however many trees we can get cut in an 8-hour day is $1,800. Instead of, you know, okay, we got trees here, we got trees over here, we got trees over here.
Right, so go
and
pick
then we
a
drive
section.
around and he goes, okay, this is gonna be X amount, this is X amount, and gives us a number. If we could hire somebody on a basis of a per day cost, and does that include just dropping them? Does that include, you know,
Right.
chipping them?
chipping them? Does that include, you know, complete removal of the trees? Does that put more work into the highway department that is now we're responsible for cleaning them up? You know,
Well, let me ask you that question. Would you be willing to work with them a little bit? Is there a way to do kind of a team effort, you think?
Well,
No.
he just told you that his list is that long.
No, I know, but I'm not talking day in, day out here. I'm just saying,
I think we could set, you know, if we came in for, okay, this
5
week
days.
he's coming in for
Right.
5 days, then we, you know, we work with him and,
Interesting.
yeah, I think we could do that.
I'm just saying, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's best to stay right either way and just let them at it, but somebody's got to be there to.
However we can, you know, best fit the money that we have to work with.
And it may be good to bring Don in and talk a little bit more specifically about this. He could not attend tonight because he had another meeting. But what I want you guys to think about is how do we want to address the ash borer? These are big numbers. Even if you go on the low end, is that inflated? You
Yeah,
know,
because it's based on that estimate
right.
From
You
other
know.
towns, I think.
No, well, he's kind of using past. I don't know. Russ and I talked about it. We think so. Whatever what have you got in now for tree and brush removal? Do we have any
So,
idea?
yeah, we have like 5 days or something like that hold on.
Well, I think, well, those 5 days, I think were considered with the shear and everything.
Right.
I don't know.
We had jacked the tree and brush removal was jacked way up for the Valley Road and all that other business.
We didn't lower it because we weren't really sure how this was gonna affect our tree budget,
Right.
you know.
But do you have a line on that? roughly?
Yeah, hang on, I gotta find it.
Oh, it's right
Tree and
here.
brush removal, 227.
227.
We have 5 days at 7,500 a day.
So we just learned from Russ that we can get a day.
I think that number, that 7,500 came from previous, which is more of logger type, like.
The boom truck comes
well,
in and the,
shear, you know,
Shear.
coming in, closing the road and
Skidders on the road.
skidders
Right.
and shears and that kind of stuff versus a bucket truck and a chipper, you know, that kind of stuff, which we learned was $1,800 a day for those guys to come in. So. you know,
And how
some-
much, if you just drop them and leave them, the landowner, you know, might want them.
That's true.
Gotta get the brush out of there though.
But help me, with the ash, you can't take it away. Can you chip it and take it away? With the
You can
emerald
chip it,
ash
you
borer?
Yeah,
believe so.
you gotta chip it to a certain dimension.
And I think it also
And then-
depends,
And it crushes the bug?
And then it's harmless, yeah. But that's
Okay.
a specific,
But you can
Dimension.
certainly leave it for the landowner.
Right.
and you can leave it because I know that I'm going to have quite a number along the utility, and I am going to harvest those.
Mhm.
And you can burn that wood even if it's infected.
Right.
Although it's likely that GMP is not gonna wait until they're infected. You know, they're gonna do it proactively. I think their plan is when there is a circumference of a certain number of miles, they go
5
in.
mile radius.
And then they eliminate them. So, you know, I will value that wood.
Mhm.
I did talk to Don on the phone.
Yeah, in the utility space, so at WAC, we were the epicenter.
Mm-hmm.
We were chipping the stuff in place and leaving it,
Yeah.
because you can't move it.
Right.
That was the rule. You cut it down and leave, you can leave the wood, you can burn the wood in place, you can't take it off site,
Right.
because you just spread the
Yeah.
insect.
So the chips would most likely stay.
And it also, if the tree is taken down early, it's not as dangerous, but if it gets
It's the
to a
brittle,
point, it gets brittle
it's 10 times more expensive.
and has to get cut from the top
Yep.
down.
So what we need to think about is this line number that we have in here is 37.5 enough for this year? Do you want to up it to 50? What, you know, and just keep in mind, now you know what that bottom line tax looks like. Everything we do, and also keep in mind, that this doesn't have, that this budget that you've seen, there's been no adjustments to the employees lines. So there's, you know, this is that 3.4%, and we haven't addressed all that. So anything we add that's, you know, you add is gonna change that number.
So I just wanted to add that I did talk to Don and I told them about, you know, the experience we had with the last cutter and that it was a per day price and he liked the sound of that a lot better, obviously. And I would propose, I don't know what you think, Russ, but what about just keeping it like it is, or maybe even trimming a little bit off of there?
My first thought was of leaving it that it was and just not knowing where we're gonna be at.
And see how we can do with,
Yeah, we could see how we could do with what we've got.
we could take a couple of roads and try to figure out, now we know how many ash we got on each road. We could say, okay, let's take this road and then we'll get a really good feel about how long it's gonna take.
That will also really depend on how much we got on each road.
Right, right.
And how
Some
much-
of these have been going down as you've been ditching too.
And also, are any of these in the utility lines too?
Right, that's unknown.
And they've not done that in this analysis?
I think they did, yeah, that should be in the analysis, that should have been in the,
I'd love to hear from Don on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we get this?
yeah.
He just sent
emailed
it yesterday or the day before.
Okay, I didn't see it.
I called him, it's in the, oh, no, it's not in the packet, I'm sorry.
No, because we didn't have it.
We didn't have it,
Okay.
so
We just
Jennifer
got it yesterday.
reminded me that you said at the last meeting that we wanted to hear from Don, and I had kind of forgotten that, so got a hold of him.
And he said,
He couldn't
oops,
make
can't
it.
come.
Can't come, but we've got the document.
Yeah.
I think that per tree price is way out to
Yeah.
lunch.
I mean, the risk of not putting money in the budget and pushing this problem down the road
I'm
is,
not saying that, yeah.
I want to make sure that we put enough money in the budget, obviously being fiscally responsible, so we're not having a huge increase. But we should put enough money in the budget to get really started on this. Because if we don't take it seriously, it'll be 10 times more expensive by the 5th year. We have
Yeah,
the beetles just taking over. These trees are super expensive to take down.
I know. So the thing is, the difference is the way we've been approaching trees is like, okay, these are the ones we want to take down. You bring the vendor around. Okay, here's this site, here's these 3 trees, a
Yeah.
price, these 4 trees, a
Right,
price.
instead of the whole section of
Instead of
road.
the whole section, or just
It's,
do what you can in a day.
yeah, it's,
Right.
it's easier to mobilize and stay in that area and just
Right.
take them down.
And even if they're willing to work with us, you know, I mean, $1,800 a day is really reasonable for tree outfit, I think.
The last piece about the budget too is we should know, the auditors have finished their field work with me after many days of torture. And we should have some numbers, so we may end up having a surplus. And if we have a surplus, that's certainly something that you could say, okay, we've got a surplus, let's take 50,000, let's take 100,000, whatever, and put it into the reserve.
So we created a reserve
We have a
for
reserve.
the ash borer.
Yeah.
Good, good.
And that was done, let me just see, I just want to read to you what it was.
So that's also.
And
I
what is
think
the
it
timing
was-
again? We'll know more for the 21st? Or do we have to have a special meeting here?
We may have to have a special meeting, but I think we'll be fine by the next select board meeting.
Next select board meeting.
Okay.
And then maybe Don can get, and maybe we can, I could just take a look at the inventory and see.
I'll send version 3 out as soon as we get, if we find out what the surplus looks like, I will be reaching out to you guys sooner, just so you can start thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because if anyone calls me and says, put this in, try that, then I will put it in there and send it to everyone.
I mean, if we had a surplus, that is a nice solution to this problem.
Yeah. I agree.
But I just, that.
The numbers
something
seem
does-
high.
But 85 to 3,500 a
Yeah.
tree seems way high.
Mhm.
But I think we're basing that on old estimates of picking out individual trees and
Yeah.
getting prices for them.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at, guys. On to version 3. And also I'm hoping Bob, hope that Bob will watch our video, take a look at
Yeah.
this, and have any input that he has to share with us too.
Indeed.
So, nice.
Thank you, great work.
We're getting there. We're gaining on it.
Great work.
Thank you, Russ.
Budget has to be done when? When do we have to have a final budget?
January, first
So-
week of January.
Yeah, so we want to have,
You
the
got
way our schedule is, we want to sign the warning on January 25th.
So we got.
That's the drop dead deadline that said
Mhm.
or that's what we need to do. We've set the town report schedule. That's what we need to do in order to make it. So, yeah.
Usually by the first week of January, we've got this
So
dialed.
we have a meeting on the 11th. So if we can pull it off on the 11th without having a special meeting between, that would be good. To approve the budget.
Oh,
And
January
should-
11th.
Yeah.
January 11th. And you should have it should be like, almost like hearing style, just like, here we are to accept the final budget. Is there any comments?
Mhm.
Get it out to the
Sweet.
public.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Good.
Nice.
now you've got the 100K highway reserve.
Oh, yeah. So we have an issue that came up, and I am bringing it to your attention because that is what the lawyers at VLCT said to do. Last year at town meeting, a motion was made on the floor by Kurt to add $100,000 to the highway budget to go into the highway reserve. However, when the actual motion was made on the floor,
Mhm.
it was, shall the voters vote to add $100,000 to the highway budget,
And the bottom line.
Not reserved.
increasing, right. So although there was a lot of discussion on the floor, and it seems pretty clear to me, I think seems clear to you, seems clear to Sherry, seems clear to Kurt, that the intention of everyone who said yes knew that the plan was that this money was going into reserve. There is nothing in writing. So
Or there's no motion.
there's
to
no
the
motion
effect.
that was made that says, shall that money, that additional 100,000 that we've just voted that goes into the budget, shall that go into the highway reserve? That wasn't voted on. So came up because I was working with the auditors. And the auditor said, I don't see that anywhere. I don't see that in the motion. So I said, well, that was the whole reason the motion was made, she said, I don't see it. Do you have minutes from town meeting? So I went and watched the video, and Brad went and watched the video, and Kurt watched the video.
I didn't watch it.
You didn't?
I was gonna watch it, but I didn't.
And it's clear that that's the intention.
What was the whole discussion?
The whole discussion was about that, but it didn't happen. And we do not have written minutes that have the discussion in them at all. So we have two options. The VLCT attorney said, if the select board believes that that was the intention, and you want to say, yes, it should go into the reserve, that was the intention of the motion, and you review the video and you see it, then the select board can say yes. Or we put it on the ballot so it was gonna, keep in mind, we were voting on it for the fiscal year 24 budget, which is the one we're in right now. Okay, so right now that money's sitting in the highway fund. It's not in a reserve yet.
Now, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Doesn't money that is left over in the highway budget automatically get to go into reserves?
No,
Stays in the highway.
it would stay in the highway budget. It has to be voted on to go into a reserve. So we have two choices. One, you guys can vote and make a motion and say it's our understanding, this was the intention, that money should do that, or err on the side of caution, and we put it on the ballot for this March, that money goes from the highway fund into the reserve.
Like a clarifying article.
Yeah. So it would still happen, I just want everyone to understand this, it would still happen in fiscal year 24, because when a motion is made to put something into reserve at the town meeting, I do it that year. That doesn't wait until the following year.
Mm-hmm.
So it would still happen in the year you intended, so we don't lose anything by waiting until March. It's your call. I was told that it is not anyone else's but the select board's call. So you guys need to decide that. We can discuss it you can think about it, review it. Maybe I can send you what time it's discussed in the meeting and you can look at it. I can also forward you the letter from the attorney, which I should have already done that. I'm sorry I didn't. So you can look at it and make a decision, and then we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Let's do step one, look at the video, review that. If you send us, watch this.
Yeah,
or
from here to here.
It'd be
Yeah.
awesome. And then if we feel comfortable enough, we can make a motion. To me, if it's pretty clear, I'd want to take action with the select board. If it's muddy and not clear in the discussion, then I would move to put it out as an article to make sure it's crystal clear to the public.
Yeah.
But just what I recall from that discussion that Kurt made the motion, it was for reserves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was fairly
I
clear
think
to me in my memory.
It's really clear. But you're gonna.
Something came into my mind, and I could almost hear Dan Mance saying it, that we can only vote on the bottom line.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So he said that.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
Yeah. First things first.
We can only
Got it.
vote on the bottom line.
You can only vote on the bottom line. You can't vote to do specific things like that.
Yeah.
So the reserve,
A second motion
Oh.
could have been made on the floor, a separate motion. But first you took first motion, but that what didn't happen. The first motion was to increase the budget,
Increase the highway budget
increase
by
the,
$100,000.
right, which increases what the request from the taxpayers by 100,000. That's all that was
But
done.
the discussion was all about
Putting it in reserves and
putting it
why.
in reserve.
Yeah, we had this whole discussion. How low is the reserve? Down somewhere between $3 and 20,000. You know, like there was a whole discussion that went on for like.
Yeah, I remember,
15 minutes.
I remember that
But
discussion.
but I think it's something that the three of you need to decide on what your comfort level. So either you move and make a motion, or or you choose to put it.
What
on
is the
bill.
liability that the select board is taking on?
Good question.
That I don't know.
I mean,
I could ask the attorney,
would
but
somebody challenge that or, litigate it or, it seems rather innocuous. That
I agree.
anybody would get real excited about
Yeah.
saying the select board was out of line.
no.
You know,
And we have the
so-
video.
Yeah, so I think that comes into my line of thinking. But I need to watch the video
Yeah.
and we need to talk about it.
I'll send it to you.
And then we need to.
I'll send you the link and the time
see what we
and the
can
letter
do.
from the attorney. You want to see it too?
Russ is.
No,
This is like,
you want my
I was
opinion,
out
can
of
tell
your-
you my opinion.
I was out of your driveway. I was out there in your road this morning at,
Late this morning.
yeah, Leslie.
Yeah, I can hear Dan saying that right now. Oh, we can only vote on the
Yeah.
changing the bottom line.
Time letter.
And he's right, but there should have been just a separate motion
So, if-
to
right,
just clarify that the 100 is
We're
going
We're
into
adding
a
this
reserve,
100,000
to the
to
reserve,
the reserve.
which is in turn adding it to the bottom line.
Anything that's brought up at town meeting? I mean, is there something that needs to be done so this doesn't happen again?
Well, it's very unusual for something like that to happen.
Yeah.
From the floor.
Anything else that was brought up at town meeting to increase?
Yes, we did. We did. We increased the select board's
Their
salaries,
Right.
but it was pretty cut and dry.
Okay. I mean, does that get affected? I mean, I'm just wondering if there's anything else.
that's not going
Oh,
under
good
reserve.
question, though. Good question.
I mean,
Yeah, that was an actual increase to a line item that affected the bottom line. A reserve.
Doesn't,
So in other words, if you came out and you got a surplus, the money stays in the highway budget. However, if you want to take that money and put it into a reserve, that takes an
you
action
have to
by
ask the voters.
Right.
So I think it's the select board statement's a little different.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll look
All
at
right,
it.
so that's,
Make sure you didn't have to pay us back.
that's good. I like that. Very funny.
Oh, boy.
All right, so 7:32, we're right on schedule almost. Russ has the culvert.
Yeah, Lower English Settlement Road, our next segment to do in the spring or summer coming up here requires us to change a culvert, a large culvert, cross culvert. And we had gotten a quote on it back in December of last year. And we checked on it again and it has increased a couple $1,000s. So, working with Brad, we thought we ought to be getting this ordered so we don't get more increases and more costs.
And there's some lead time, right?
And there's some lead time for
And
orders.
which year budget is this in?
This is in the budget year we're in right
Okay.
now. So we have the revenue accounted for in the grant.
Okay,
And, however, we probably won't get reimbursed until after the fiscal year
Okay.
ends.
because our culvert line's already over budget by a
This
lot.
isn't, yeah, it is, but the culvert line will be replenished because as soon as I, apply for reimbursement
We'll get the money.
we'll get the money.
Okay.
So the culvert line, see, the MRGP work, we don't really set aside separately in the budget because we never know what we're gonna get. Well, budget season, we know now, but we choose not to put it in the budget, leave it as unexpected revenue. So the culvert line might go up a little bit, but we get reimbursed for the culvert.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is accounted for in the Better Back Roads grant.
Yeah.
So we will get reimbursed
Gotcha.
100% for that.
Gotcha.
Nice.
So, but it just may not be until after the fiscal year is over.
Which
But it's
is
a
fine. It'll be in accounts receivable.
tight timeline here. This work needs to be done before July 1. Well, or it doesn't have to be. Yeah, the expense.
It does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But you guys need to prove it because of
So,
cost.
Right.
Yeah, it's a purchase over $1,000.
so I move we approve the Is this quote from FW Webb in the amount of $18,890.08 for culverts.
It's 100 feet of 71 inch by 47 inch arch culvert. Big.
I'll second that. Further discussion?
Hopefully that price hasn't gone up anymore.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This motion carries 2-0.
What is the date of this quote? This is
No, just-
October.
October 19th, it's good for 15 days. No,
Yeah.
October 19th?
Says October 19th.
Time flies and I haven't found that.
In the event the price goes up, what I don't want to do is have you come back. I'd like to make a motion to give an additional 2,000 leeway for the purchase of the culverts from FW Webb Company in the event the price has gone up.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 2-0.
We get some wiggle room.
Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't see that expiration in time for the first motion.
I'm just gonna check something.
It's not a very long time frame for a quote.
I think next on the agenda is your stuff.
Yeah, you want me to just do those quick
Yeah,
things?
yeah.
First thing, I've got an employee that, in our winter months, has a pretty important family event, out of state. And he was looking to take Wednesday, the 10th of January through Wednesday, the 17th of January to be able to attend this family function. I'm okay with it, due to the fact that I do have coverage for him, with Jed. I feel he's on board if it's okay to do this. He would cover for Dwayne. So I just told Dwayne that I wanted to run it by you folks, being
Sure.
in the middle of the winter when vacations technically are able to be taken usually. But I'm fine with it. The rest of the crew's fine with it.
And I think that isn't it true that the pay in terms of the seasonal increase gets adjusted when that happens? Because that happened.
Dwayne did bring that up and he said that he would expect it to be on
His vacation, the vacation time would be at that rate,
normal.
at the regular rate, not the
Versus
winter
the
rate, correct?
Right.
Because it's not on call, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, there's, yeah, I appreciate the heads up and your planning in getting it covered.
I wanted
Do we
make
need
sure
to
that
take
was all
action
good
on that?
before. I just
I
wanted,
don't think so, it's just kind of normal,
Okay,
just wanted you folks to know about it
Okay.
before.
it's normal.
appreciate that.
What was that? I'm just gonna jot that down here. What was it?
Wednesday, January 10th through Wednesday,
Or what was the topic? It was called something.
employee PTO request for winter time.
PTO request, yeah.
Vacation request.
Yeah.
During
Winter
on call.
on call, yeah.
And I think the only reason we're talking about it is because it's winter.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So the second thing I've got, is last few days, we've been cleaning and organizing the town garage and doing a really nice job. Brad can attest to
I
that.
heard, Brad came back bragging
Okay,
about you
today.
guys.
But we have, the town had purchased, I think around 7 to 8 years ago, we have a machine to make our own hydraulic hoses if we happen to blow a hose during a storm, something like that. But for some reason, back several years ago, the town purchased a bunch of fittings for hose making that will not work in our machine. They have to be the fittings have to match the machine that crimps them to the hoses. So we have, and for recollection of when a certain employee went to pick these fittings up, was around $800 worth of fittings that he purchased from this company, Sinel's in Burlington. And we've had them in inventory, but have not been able to use a single one through this. And we've talked about it several times. You know, what do? We go to make well, we can't use these because they don't fit. So we're always looking in the drawers, but close them because we know we can't use them. So today I just put just on Facebook, I put, who uses
I saw your
Gates.
post.
Gates? They're made by Gates company. Who uses Gates fittings? That's all I said. Took a picture of the drawers open. And there's
A shit ton of them.
quite a few.
There's a lot of them.
I didn't advertise
It
them for
looked like a
sale.
store.
He
I
did
just said, who uses
Who
that?
uses these?
This is good. I like this.
And I got a reply from several people. We do. And these are all colleagues in this industry.
Yeah.
And I got a call from the road foreman in the town of Berlin, Tim Davis. And he said, are you looking to sell them? And I'm like, well, possibly, but I wanted to kind of see who used them. And he said, well, we're interested in purchasing them if you're interested in selling them. I said, okay. I said, well, so we took the initiative to look up today what these fittings would cost us today. And it was about $1,150 to buy these today. So I told Tim, today we found that we were to buy these, be $1,150. What would be your offer? And he said, we would give you $800 for what you have there. I said, that sounds more than fair to me. I said, with our policy, I have to run it by the select board. We have a meeting tonight. And I said, well, run it by them. And if they're good with it, you let me know. So I'm good with it. We're basically getting our money back.
Yeah.
That we could use.
And if it's sitting in there's no guarantee, they're not, one might be dinged up or something.
They're not, I mean, they're brand new. They're all packaged.
Right.
They're all in the, they're all.
Yeah, it looks like a store.
Okay,
They're
thanks.
good.
Yeah, that's a fair offer.
I thought that was fair.
Yeah.
You know, and it's small enough, there's no competitive, I wouldn't be compelled to put this out to a competitive bid thing.
No.
It's like, let's just
Right.
save some time, not
And
waste all
it's
your
with
time.
another town, and it helps them.
Exactly.
And I don't mind being a team player in that way. And, if we were in the position, we'd like, a bargain like that too.
Mhm.
And I'm fully happy to do that. In fact, I would make a motion to approve the sale of those fittings, for the $800 price for the town of Berlin.
Second,
Do we have any other discussion?
well done.
Nice job. I saw
Bring it
a
in
post
money.
and I'm like, what are those?
This is
I thought
great.
they might be
I
candy.
encourage you to find more money in the garage.
This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep taking
Like,
stuff
oh, we're
out.
not using
We will.
this.
All in
That's great.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. This motion carries 2-0.
The third thing, hopefully doesn't get into a long discussion, the Beaver Deceiver. So as we all know, we hired Skip, the Beaver Deceiver guy, to do a job for us. I'll try to make it as quickly as possible. We were asked to remove the dam to lower the water so he could put in the Deceiver, which we did. It then turned into, we need to rebuild the dam to hold the water because there's no beavers. The beavers are gone. Whether they just left on their own or somebody took them out, or I don't know, but there's no beavers up there. So the road crew went back up. We took all the material that we took out of it. We took 3 loads of beaver dam material, sticks, mud, crap, and brought it up to the pit. And that stuff is not easy stuff to
No.
Handle.
handle. So we went back up. They wanted it to Skip and Kurt wanted us to put stone and mud, and whatever we could bring back some of that material. And we're like, all right, so here we are another day into this with 2 loads of stone, excavator time,
we were able to haul one load of material back that we were able to scrape up with a bucket loader. Dwayne did a fantastic job, looked really nice. It didn't hold. So
He is not a beaver.
say the dam is 12 feet long, probably a third of it has given away. So water is running through. So the Beaver Deceiver is not completely underwater. It is about this far up, sticking out of the water. I met with Kurt. He asked if we would haul in bigger rock, 3+ foot size rock, to place in the front side of that, or back side, whatever you want to call it, on the downstream side of that dam and rebuild that. And to hold what is there, plus close up that area that is flowing. And I said, well, for one, we don't have big rock like that, so that would have to be purchased. And we cannot place big rock like that with our equipment. It would have to be an outside vendor that would come in with, say, a log truck or something like that could grapple a big rock, place it, because it's going to have to be all placed. It's not just something you can dump in. And when talking with him, discussing with it, I'm like, I think we can do that. I mean, I could probably get that done. And then thinking about it more and talking with the rest of the crew, we came up with a few things. Should we even be putting material into a waterway? Then it was brought up, what happens if we get a large wash and those big rocks go under the bridge? Now they're under the bridge, how are we going to get them out? Then it blocks everything. So I went back, we were having an infrastructure meeting, and then I was unable to attend, so I did watch the video. It turned into, now the road crew's not willing to help us and so on, which is not the case. I'm willing to help if we can. And I said, I want to talk to the select board about it and get their approval on doing this, because there's going to be expense into this. When we had hired somebody to do a job, it's not his fault there's no beavers in there. I suggested, leave it the way it is. Hopefully beavers come back in the spring and let the beavers do their job.
Right.
So it was discussed at that meeting, and I did watch the video, and it kind of dwindled down to, well, big rocks aren't going to hold water anyways, unless you've got mud and debris and stuff.
Right.
It will hold some, but it's still water's going to flow.
You need hard pan or.
It's going to be, our job is to get rid of beavers, not keep beavers. But I agree in this situation, it's a beautiful spot when there's water there, and we want to keep it nice and a lot of wildlife. I respect that. But I'm not comfortable with putting large rock into a waterway to hold a beaver dam or to build a beaver dam, and then to have something happen to push it out. So at the end of that meeting, it came to, well, maybe we should just wait for the beavers to do their thing. Felt good about it. Today I get a message from Skip saying that, hey, Russ, we really need to put big rocks in there. We need to get that done. I hear you're reluctant. I'm like, yeah, I am reluctant to do that. Had a little bit of discussion with Brad about it. He agrees with me.
So why is Skip,
He wants to see his Beaver Deceiver work, but.
Yeah, the Deceiver needs to be completely underwater to work.
so what's it supposed to do again? I remember
Controls the flow controls the height, right?
So basically there's a cage, probably as square as this table, out of our right of way. And then there's a big pipe that comes from that cage over the top of the dam. So when the water gets to that pipe, it flows through the pipe, and the beavers don't mess with it because the water height stays where they're happy with it. But there's no beavers in there right now.
So the water's low.
So the water's.
I am in complete agreement with you not to introduce
Yeah,
rocks
I think
and
the expense.
I think we also, what comes to mind is Cricket, Cricket McClusker designed that bridge. Somebody ought to be talking with Cricket too, She would be in agreement with him.
If we were in error in putting the Beaver Deceiver, I know that was not cheap. It's like throwing good money after bad.
Can you remove the Beaver Deceiver?
No, we're not moving the
I didn't understand that the Beaver Deceiver required the dam to be removed. The whole point of
Well,
that,
we had to get the water.
Had to get the water down so we could get his unit in there.
but the whole point of that project is it's benign to the area that,
Right, but they're supposed to.
no, I get that, but there's gonna be a
theoretically,
different way than taking the dam out.
Theoretically, the beavers would just come right back and build it up, just like we do now, right? So the
Yeah.
dam gets built, we
Yeah.
take it out, they rebuild it, take
I
it out,
think
they
the
rebuild
Beavers
it.
deceived us.
I think
The
so.
beavers deceived us.
I think that's
Yeah.
why he wants it out.
I think that they, look what they're doing.
It's like,
I don't like the sounds of rocks, and I don't think the state.
They
would
moved to
either.
Palm Beach.
exactly.
Um,
I am not in support of introducing rocks to a waterway, essentially.
That
a
would never
body of-
had rocks.
Exactly. You're totally screwing up the ecosystem.
Yeah, I took a tour of the Hoover Dam one time. I don't think we really need that.
So should a letter be
Big rock.
written to Skip saying that that it is not the intention of the town to do anything right now with that?
Well, part of it back up a little bit, we did bring 2 loads of stone, of ditch stone, in to armor what we built. And Skip was willing to deduct that off his bill, which I don't think we paid him for his work yet.
No.
Nope, haven't got a
So
bill.
he was willing to deduct the price of the stone, because in the beginning he was gonna
Rebuild
the dam himself, and then it got to, we need more rock. I'm like, we're too busy to go back up there, get a moving machine back and forth, spend it ends up being a day. By the time you're done, I said, we just don't have the time right now. Well, can you bring us a load of stone, and the townspeople will move the stone onto the thing? I'm like,
I really don't like
No, we don't want
to me, it's
townspeople.
not chewing up staff time. Is you're screwing with the ecosystem here.
What about the Department of Fish and Wildlife? Do they have any beavers that they can import?
there's some beavers on Irish Settlement Road that are gonna need to find a home soon. So that's gonna cause our next.
Russ is gonna take care of this.
Oh, perfect. Well, let's just
Bring them over.
have a
Come
hard
on.
trap them and bring
Come on,
them over
Chucky.
there.
Can we trap them?
Can you
You can
trap
hire
them and
someone.
have a heart trap? Probably.
They're very difficult to trap because they're very deceptive.
Yeah.
But I
Isn't
wonder,
it illegal to do that?
I don't know, I wonder,
would think you'd want the game wardens.
I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
that.
we're not,
We could-
but I
we
wonder
could
if you could hire
tranquilize
someone.
them, I bet. Tranquilize them and transport them over to the other place. And they wake up, they're just in a new place.
I
Let's just
have-
let Mother
They don't know
Nature,
what's-
let's just let Mother Nature take over.
We've done a fair amount of our own work there that we really weren't supposed to be doing anything
Yeah.
with this. Just wanted to help him. But now they're asking us to do it
Yeah.
again, and I'm like,
Yeah,
So what would be the problem if we don't do anything?
so they're saying,
Would there be too much water coming?
they're afraid that if we get a lot of spring runoff, that if the rest of the dam goes out, then the Deceiver could be damaged from water flow. But it could be anyways. I mean, if the Beavers did build a dam and the Beaver Dam blew out.
yeah, it's exactly.
Kind of, you're weighing,
Yeah.
I have a hard time justifying spending money to build a Beaver Dam when they will build one.
They will build it and build it better than you could
Exactly.
ever
Oh.
could.
Exactly. I agree with you. We shouldn't be chewing up time and materials, and the damage to the ecosystem is a problem. I mean, you're screwing around with it. The beavers don't bring in rocks and boulders and
Right.
things of that nature.
I get the fact he wants it to be working, I get that, but
So remind me, it seemed like it made sense at the time. Why did we even worry about it?
Kurt was worried about the water getting up and cutting the road off. And it was up close to the road,
came up into the road.
barely into the road, yeah. But that happens everywhere.
We also have to be mindful of, like, Nancy Bradford and her yard, because if that's not correct over on Corbett Road, and that dam gets built, or that Deceiver is not correct, and that brings water up over her driveway, that's gonna cause more problems too. So I don't know what kind of calculations he did on Corbett Road for the height of the pipe, the drainage pipe, is that gonna affect Nancy? It's not affecting Nancy right now, but if that gets up another 1.5 feet, is it going to? Which it needs to be up
I'm
another,
gonna take a ride over there and check it out.
There you go. Let's hope the Beavers just come back and do their thing.
I really think at this point in the game, that's
It's
our,
too late in the year here to be messing
It's
around.
winter.
That's another good point. Yeah, exactly. Wait for spring and the beavers to come back.
they'll be back. It's a perfect
Mhm.
place for
Great
them.
spot.
Yeah. Put an ad in front porch.
Yeah.
Maybe we could go around to the other areas and just put a sign up for them.
We got a great
Welcome,
spot for
welcome
you.
on Culvert Road.
Can it be a beaver's trick to beaver deceiver?
I would entertain you guys to take a ride, just
Yeah,
check it out. I mean, it's,
It's accessible by Corbett Road?
oh yeah, just
Okay.
drive down Corbett right to the bridge and you look off the bridge,
Okay.
it's right there. You
I'll
can't-
go check it out.
You'll see the dam that was built and you'll see
Yeah.
how much of it is flowing water and yeah, I think Skip's other concern was a wildlife that is living in there that needs water over it and ice over it to survive through the winter. He has that concern, that creatures that live in the mud or something that, I don't know a lot
Well,
about it.
I think
Which,
creatures are adaptable.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe we should encourage Skip, if he wants to talk about this further, to come talk to the select board.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you introducing giant rock is a bigger change to the environment than a beaver dam has a breach naturally. The mud flows and the little critters and frogs and all the animal material flows with it. That's part of nature. You introducing rocks is not part of nature.
I agree.
Okay.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Appreciate your
Thank you.
support.
So we had the fall 2023 landfill monitoring results, and I just want to let you know, so Bob Ross emailed me the results, and I had asked him, I said, can we please forward those off to the state, as we usually do? So on November 29th, which is a Wednesday, emailed Stephen Young, state of Vermont, and I'll just read his email. He said, attached is the monitoring report for the Underhill landfill. No significant changes were noted in the test results. Please let me know if you have any questions. Now that's for the monitoring wells for the landfill itself. But in the fall, so there are some levels that are a little out of whack, but they've been stable and consistent.
Consistently out of whack.
Right. So the second thing they do, and they only do this in the fall, is test the supply well to the town garage.
Mhm.
So the supply well came back. The supply well came back okay as well. However, the town road crew has noticed a sulfur smell, and so did Bob Ross when he did the sample. I asked him.
Bottled water.
Well, that's why I had a bottle of water, but I asked him if there was any cause for concern, and he said no, but I said, is there anything we could do to maybe mitigate that smell, or, and he didn't get back to me on that, but, is it overwhelming in the building when you're in the building? Is
It's
it
just when you run the water.
just when you run the water? Yeah. So it doesn't hang in the air. It's not that bad. I've seen some
Does it
places.
dissipate after you run it for a while?
We really don't run it a lot
Maybe need to run it more.
well, we're not gonna drink it. 'Cause nobody
No,
wants
I
to drink it.
understand,
So
but
the only way we're washing trucks or equipment, that's getting run, we wash a few dishes after breakfast or something, but that's about it.
okay. Well, that's the results of the
Yeah,
well, but I'll see if there's some way we can maybe mitigate.
I wouldn't worry too much about
There's
adding
a whole
any.
filtering system that you can put in, but I'm not sure it would be,
Like a charcoal filter or something.
oh, yeah, you can do that. We have to Good Shepherd Church has to do that. And since I make coffee there, I let the water run. It smells like Yellowstone, you know, when you're running the water. And after a while, you get cold water that doesn't smell so much.
Right.
Fortunately, the leach field is underused and can absorb it. But, you know, if you're not going to use it for consumption,
I wouldn't worry.
and use it to wash trucks, it's useful for that.
Flushing the toilet?
Yeah. I don't think it's worth the extra money.
I agree.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was so overwhelming or bad smelling that, you know, the
It
guys
doesn't-
that
it doesn't
had
linger.
mentioned it, so I
It
just
doesn't
wanted to bring
linger,
it
it's
up.
just,
Okay.
it's just a turn off to even want to drink it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understandably.
I don't like drinking our town water either.
I don't drink our water
It's
here.
not very tasty,
Yeah.
so I bring the water jug from home.
Me too, every day.
All right, so Poker Hill School does an annual solstice party. And they usually request every year, as they always have been, permission to park on the road. So it's December 20th and 21st, 2:30 in the afternoon to 4. And I asked her how many cars, and they said usually about 25 cars per day. But they have, you know, they have parking area in above the school and in the school, but I think it's a very well-attended event, and it's always had it. And we've always granted, since November 1 till April 15th, it's a parking ban, so.
And if it's a snowy event, they'll cancel
I would imagine,
That's what they
yeah,
say in
if
the
it's,
letter
if
she
it's
said.
really rowdy, they're
the,
probably.
so it's not gonna interfere with snow plows or anything of that
Well,
nature.
if they close school that day, it's not gonna affect, it will, I don't wanna say this.
If they close school, the event is canceled.
Right,
That's what they say.
right, but who's to say if it doesn't snow after lunch, and school's already been in session, so they didn't cancel school, but snow comes at noon and I'm not gonna worry about it. We can make do, we get around them.
It's a wide, the road's pretty wide there, and they've done it.
It's a great thing, great thing. Holiday season, have fun. We'll figure.
Do we need a motion or?
Well, I would just do a motion to.
I don't plow that road, so.
Because there's a parking ban this time of year,
Exactly,
you're offering.
Yeah.
Exempt or lift the parking ban for Poker Hill School for these 2 days only.
I move that we allow Poker Hill School to, rephrase that.
Hold their special event for December 20th and 21st.
For Poker Hill School, we waive the parking ban for December 20th from 2:30 to 4 and December 21st from 2:30 to 4.
I'll second that.
After 4, the wreckers are gonna be.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna plow 'em right off the road.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This motion carries 2-0.
Okay. Hang on here. So I've got too many things. So as part of the planning grant, that we sponsored the Underhill United Church,
Mhm.
you know, the planning, $50,000 planning grant. There it is. The grant has to be closed out by December 31st of this year. So in order to fulfill all the requirements of the grant, we're required to have a final public hearing. And that hearing is set for December 21st at your regular select board meeting at 6 o'clock. It's been warned in the paper. All the materials have been uploaded on the town's website. They're available here for viewing. So if somebody wants to see, the goal of the hearing is just to kind of review the accomplishments that happened with the money from the grant. So we had environmental review release, we had wetlands study, we had an archaeological study, we had a bunch of engineering work. So the church did all these things, and the purpose of this final hearing is if someone was interested to see where the money went, they can see. So I don't think the hearing will be, there may be someone interested in it. I would assume if they're that interested in it, they would be reviewing the documents online. There's hundreds of files that are available, and I put a master list of all files on there, but then I picked the most significant ones to upload. There's plenty to look at. But anyway, that will be at the next select board meeting on the 21st.
Okay. Thank you.
Then I'm just going to add on that agreement for,
Sidewalk study?
yeah, so it's basically an agreement to provide, and Dan has a copy of it, but it's basically just saying that the project budget cost is $79,991. Chittenden County Regional Planning has agreed to use Federal Highway Administration planning funds for 80% of that cost. So this agreement says Chittenden County Regional Planning will pay $63,993, and the town of Underhill agrees to do a 20% match in the amount of $15,998. And usually what happens in those scenarios is they bill us periodically as an invoice comes in. We get our 20%. Jennifer's used to seeing them for the River Road project. We did not budget this because you just signed the grant agreement right around the time you signed the warning. It didn't get included in the budget, but I think it should be included in this year's budget.
Mm-hmm.
The 17,000, just that part for our match.
For the upcoming budget or the one we're in?
The one we're budgeting right now,
Gotcha.
25.
And it's not in there now?
No, I put it in version 3, so it'll be in the next version,
Yeah.
because this just came up today.
Just came up today. So we may have to float a little bit of it in this fiscal year we're in, but I'd say the majority of the 15 or 16,000 will be in fiscal year 25.
If you think about the timing of it, when they're gonna start this,
Right.
it's gonna,
Exactly.
and by the time they then bill us and we then pay it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of invoices, but so that's that. And then the other
Do you need a
thing-
motion on that for anything?
I would just move to either, I guess it's got me as, so you can
Right,
move to
authorize Brad to
sign
sign this form.
I move we authorize Brad to sign the grant agreement between the town of Underhill and the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission for,
Underhill Center sidewalk scoping study.
thank you, that's the motion.
I'll second that.
Like, what is the project again?
That's okay.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This motion carries 2-0.
I wanted to just bring up one other thing, but we could do it under scheduling, but is the Underhill Jericho Fire Department, we brought that up. So I've been kind of after Matt to see where the budget is. He's close. In the past 2 years, we've had a joint meeting with Jericho.
That's worked out well.
It has worked out well, yes. And I brought up, so Jericho's schedule is on the same as yours is right now. 7th, they're meeting tonight, and they're meeting on the 21st. I don't think, given the fact of where we are, that either town would be able to, I don't think we could do it at one of your regular meetings. I think it should be a special meeting. So I proposed the 14th which is the Thursday in between, a member of Jericho Select Board is not available that time. So I guess I'd like to, we can do it offline, but if you have any suggestions, I guess we could do it offline, but I told John Abbott, Town Administrator of Jericho, that I would throw out a few dates, and we're gonna have to work with Bob offline because he's not here, so.
So it'd be an evening meeting, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I don't anticipate it taking much more than an hour. And they could maybe come here, I can't remember who came. If we went there
We
last,
went there
so they
last
could come
time.
here this time.
Yeah. How about we send you dates of
Yeah, if you could,
conflicts and then you can work around that?
right. Some of the days you can't make.
Yeah.
For the evenings you could not make, and then I'll,
In what time frame?
and yeah, so let's shoot for the 6 o'clock time frame. I think
I
6
mean-
to,
Between now and when?
Yeah, between, I think we want to do it before the 21st. So,
And you're talking about Monday through Thursday.
yeah, I'm talking basically any time between now and the 21st.
Okay.
Okay, ready to do that?
Obviously not Friday, but Monday through the 21st.
Mhm.
And that's it, I think, for me.
Okay,
That-
Correspondence, I have that.
Yeah, and do
when
we
get
want
there.
to mention the, just what we're working on for the meadow?
Oh,
we need to,
correspondence, we'll include that.
Okay.
we need to have, invite for a closing public comment period, and I don't see anybody.
You have a
So-
minute? You have all your form?
That's not coming up yet. So,
So, we will move on to warrants and minutes first. And I move that we
It's a big pile.
approve the AP warrants for 12/7/2023. Is there a second?
Second?
Are there any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those are approved, 2-0. And I move that we approve the payroll warrant for 12/7/2023. Is there a second?
Yes?
what happened there?
Any discussion on that?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those are approved 2-0. And I move that we approve the payroll warrants for 11/22/2023. Is there a second?
Yep, I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 2-0. I move that we approve the accounts payable warrants for 11/27/2023. Is there a second?
Yep, Patty, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 2-0. And I move that we approve the check warrant report for 11/27/2023. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is approved. And I move that we approve the select board meeting minutes for Thursday, November 16th, 2023. Is there a second?
And I was there, yes?
Julia?
Second?
Any observations or? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That
was interested.
Those
Check
minutes
over $1 million.
are approved.
It doesn't come out right.
So
I do it 4 times a year.
member items, correspondence.
Yeah.
I do have some correspondence. Hang on a minute. There's too much stuff tonight.
There's a long time between meetings.
Yeah, well,
We accumulated a lot of stuff for you guys.
Yeah, it was a 3-week.
Thanksgiving and in there.
Jennifer wrote a letter. I don't know if you'd like to just.
Oh, yeah,
You
I
want
can
to
do
just, you might as well, since it's you that wrote
Yeah, I just,
this
I want-
correspondence.
under correspondence, I wrote a letter to Francis and Jeff Crandall today on 74 Maple Ridge Road, because I received several phone calls, emails, about their dog Coco, routinely running at large, running out at cars, and basically like disturbing people in the middle of the night and waking up neighbors' dogs in the middle of the night. So there was also an incident several months ago where Coco went onto someone else's property and bit their dog. So I wrote a letter to these people asking them to remedy the situation. And I copied you guys on this so that it goes into the record.
Mhm.
That's the
Any
correspondence.
outcome at this point, yeah?
And the letter went out today.
Then we had, I think, something you guys were aware of a little bit, the Tomasi Meadow, and the article from Mount Mansfield Nordic Club that was in the Mountain Gazette, which is almost made it sound like you need to join Mount Mansfield Nordic in order to use the Tomasi Meadows. So they work with the Recreation Committee to groom the trails. That's done on a volunteer basis. What they do separately is, for their fees, that's separate from the Tomasi Meadow. However, it brought up the point, Jennifer and I and Sherry talked, and Jennifer sent a letter to an email to our insurance, and we should probably have some kind of agreement with Mount Mansfield Nordic if they're going to be using the Tomasi Meadow for training. So Jennifer, you can.
Yeah, so I drafted up a document, which, like a permit, basically saying that Mansfield Nordic Club or any other organization that comes to us and asks to use our property to do a regular thing, because their members they're coming and they're using our conserved land to run their training classes, and they have skiers from young youth skiers all the way to master's classes. So we were concerned with several things. One, it is we've conserved this land. The residents of Underhill have bought this land with the help of the land trust. So this land, and we have a management, agreement and a conservation easement. And so there are things that can and cannot be done on this land. We need to make sure that it's available for our residents to use. So there's no exclusivity where they're running.
So if somebody wants to walk on their trail, can we walk on the trail?
Yes, they cannot limit the residents' use of the trail as long as it's within. So basically, we became concerned that also if there was an accident or an injury, and this is the sponsored event by a private club. Again, this isn't just a group of residents. These are people from, we don't know where they're from. They're paying a fee to be members of Mansfield Nordic Club.
Many of them could be Underhill residents, but or Jericho residents. So
and they can use it, but this is an organized activity on a regular basis that they schedule and that they're using our property. So it seems like the cart was put before the horse.
And they didn't request.
I believe that what should have happened, and our insurance company agrees with this, that they should have come to us and said, and I'm sure there was just a miscommunication, that they should have come to the select board, or the recreation committee should have come to the select board. Somebody should have come to you and said, hey, Mansfield Nordic Club, this organization wants to use Tomasi Meadow from X PM to Y PM to do their classes, to teach their classes and run their ski school. And that didn't happen. So basically it's on hold right now until we have some kind of document that protects the town and holds us harmless.
Right.
So
there should be.
I
so
think what
that's
they've
what we're working
offered
on.
too, back to the grooming, they've offered to groom a trail parallel with the skate track for dog walkers and,
Anybody who wants to cross-country ski.
yeah, right.
Snowshoe.
Well, they could cross-country ski on the track that they're using
But
too.
if they're holding a class and I want to go cross-country ski,
You
can
can
I
go on
not?
their
Sure, you jump right in
just
behind
jump
them.
in?
Yeah.
Jump right in behind them.
Yeah.
And if
Okay.
anybody tells you you can't,
Okay.
Then we have a problem.
we need to know about it.
Yeah.
Right, so, because like you said, this is a field that the town purchased for the town residents' benefit.
But I
Yeah.
think what they did for for grooming the trail parallel with the skate track is if somebody doesn't want to get buzzed by skiers all the time, now they have a private
That's nice.
track. I
Right.
think that was
Or if people are walking their dogs, I think it's to the benefit of anyone who's skiing on that trail, whether they're an MNC member or me or you. If the tracks are there, it's not fun to ski a track and then someone goes through with a dog and
Yeah,
wrecks the track.
Right.
I find that at Mills Riverside.
Right, so that's something that we just want, that they're doing that's great, and the trails are fantastic.
I think it's all gonna work out.
It'll all
Yeah.
work out fine, we just need to make sure that we're protected, so Sherry and I are drafting the documents, we are going to send them to our attorney, and then we'll make sure Passive is okay with everything, and,
Just like when we had the fun run, with the rec committee and
Yeah.
we got a waiver, we ran it by Passive, they approved it.
Perfect.
so we just wanted you guys to be aware of what was going on.
Makes sense.
I'm excited to see the skiers out there.
It was so fun last week. They did groom it, and I even saw people out there at night with their headlamps, and you see them like coming down and winding
it's
around, and yeah.
But they won't be doing it Sunday.
Nope, not Sunday or Monday.
Okay.
I think we skipped over member items, but, do you guys have any member items you wanted to?
I do not.
I don't have any either.
So the next regular scheduled select board meeting is December 21st, and that is in place of the December 28th meeting.
Mhm.
But then
Special regular schedule.
we'll try to squeeze a joint meeting in between there sometime,
Okay.
hopefully. That brings you to executive session, I guess.
Bob is very sick. Says he cannot attend your executive session. He's gone. He was hoping he could, but he just texted and said,
Okay.
no dice. He said, I've got to go to bed. So if we can table this to the 21st, he would like to attend and be part of that discussion. But that's your call.
Either that, or we could,
Try and schedule it.
Maybe after your joint.
Yeah, we could do that,
It's up to you.
maybe, or we could do it and then,
I could meet with him.
and meet with Bob offline.
What is this about?
It's about, what we were talking about in terms of the highway department,
Oh, gotcha.
plus other employee, issues. I mean, not issues, but
You
benefits.
gotta talk to you about Brad.
Money isn't issues.
Gotta talk to you about
Can
Brad.
be.
It can be if there's a lack of,
Yeah.
or too much of.
Up to you guys.
So, what do you want to do, Patty?
Let's wait.
Okay, because
Yeah, I think that's
I have
important.
met with Jen offline, and I like, where we're going with this. And because we didn't have a meeting, I could not include you and Bob.
Right.
And so that's the intention of it. So I've got this wealth of information, and so does Jen, and we want to share. So the best way you think is when we're all together.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we
And if
will
before
not
the
meet.
21st, we have the meeting with the
Yeah.
fire
that's what I'm
department, I
saying.
can come, we can do that then too.
Right.
As long as it's not the 15th.
If they leave, you could do an executive session at the end and
Yeah, we could
take
do
care of
that.
it.
We could do that. Okay. Very good. So we will bypass that. We have no other need for that. And I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Oh, did we want to hold up?
Huh?
Do you want to bring up the holiday thing?
Oh, yes, I'd like to bring up one thing while we're still on the record. Are we still on the record?
Yes.
Okay.
Still on.
So we are having, we would like to have a holiday lunch for the town, staff
Mhm.
and the road crew on
Wednesday?
Wednesday,
Well, someday next week.
yeah, someday next week. So we just wanted to get your approval to do that.
We've
And-
got, in the past, we just go out to lunch.
Need a motion?
Yeah.
I'm in full favor, full support. I move
It's our one
that,
holiday luncheon.
I move that you put on a holiday luncheon for all the employees.
And I'll second that in the usual amount, whatever that is.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you,
You cover.
thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved
Excellent.
2-0.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, thanks Brad for
Yeah.
reminding me.
So we do have a motion on the table,
Then we'll adjourn.
move to adjourn, and it was seconded, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Please stop the recording.
Thank you. Thanks, Donna.
Thanks, Donna.